Cascais in Portugal. We're on the western tip of mainland Europe and the surfing continues here. You are joining us with another vital round 2 encounter. Heat 6 will wrap up this round. Coco Ho takes on Nikki Van Dijk. We were discussing the permutations of it. A vital heat for Coco Ho here as she finds herself at the back end of a qualification on the championship tour, and of course on that virtual bubble on the qualifying series as well. It's just a couple hundred yards, sure. You're going to burn up 5 or 6 minutes, but there's a flush rip going out on the south end of the beach, as you mentioned. Meanwhile, Van Dijk will make a decision here, and she'll play out a opening ride here with 18 minutes on the clock. Van Dijk, this is going to be a useful one. She's going to go through to the inside. She's doing a good job of it, picking up on a similar wave to what Sage Eriksson picked up on the inside. But now Nikki Van Dijk delivering all the way through to the inside. So smart strategic move here. 18 minutes on the clock, and that is easily going to surpass Coco Ho's decimal score for her opener. This is going to put immediate pressure on the Hawaiian in red.
Yeah, it sure will. You know, and watching Nikki surf the last few events, I think she's really dialed in her equipment. I think, you know, at the beginning of the season, she was probably using a couple different designs, but now ultimately she's figured out what she likes and has been consistently getting these boards out of Channel Islands. The models that she likes, she's been riding Zeus's and you know, rookies, but she knows like what's happening is she's learning what works in different types of conditions and being able to pull out the right blade to do it. Like I said, I mean, Nikki right there, her surfing was on point. I mean, obviously a very challenging wave to ride, but the board looked really good. Absolutely.
So she'll welcome this number from our panel, Dave Shipley and the crew, and it's a 4.67, Peter. It's not a massive number in the context of what we've seen through round 2, but in the picture of this heat, that's going to be valuable right now as we're getting closer to the halfway mark. 17 minutes remaining, 30-minute heats, so we're only 2 minutes off the halfway mark now.
That's right. I mean,
and as we go past the halfway mark, both of our surfers are in position. We're just going to keep having a look here as Coco Ho will get to her feet. Does this wave do a reform on the inside? She's going to want to come back and answer to Nikki Van Dijk's 467. Oh, and she'll go down. And in that dramatic moment, let's take a little breather and come back and see what these two ladies have for us. Coco Ho ranked 11th, Nikki Van Dijk ranked 12th. This is a brutal exchange taking place here, but it's not turning out on the numbers just yet. Nikki Van Dijk a 467 for her opening ride. It is the best number achieved. Coco Ho potentially just before the break finding a wave that could have rumbled through for her, but she went down early. So Coco Ho will definitely want to engage some rhythm now with 12.5 minutes remaining. Downside to that, priority now belonging to Nikki Van Dijk. 11.5 now to go. That's a small requirement. You see on screen there, a 3.75 is all Coco Ho needs, but the reality is that Van Dijk only on one ride now. Using priority, she's paddled for that. Now strategically, she will relinquish that first priority. There's absolutely no doubt that the priority will swing. You'll see the little P drop to Coco Ho's color red shortly. She had good, solid intention. She made the move, intending to paddle for that wave. She did lunge at it. That's enough to lose priority right there, even if the ride doesn't play out.
She did paddle towards the wave. It is definitely, especially if both surfers are on the outside. We've seen it before where if you're outside by yourself, as we watch Coco Ho up and riding.
Well, Coco Ho going to pick up on a left-hander. We haven't seen one of these ridden for a while, so testimony to the change happening in the lineup. Now she's going to find a link, and she's now going to bleed off to the right. So nice work here from Coco Ho. This is going to materialize onto the inside. Here's the section.
Nice.
Oh, and she does a great job of it. So that brings her right back into the discussion. Now an exchange taking place because Van Dijk has picked up on this wave as well. So now using the same part of the beach, here's that rumbling right-hander, and that's a big impact, and Van Dijk will be happy with that one. So best rides, I would say, for both of our surfers playing out as we get to around the 10-minute remaining mark here, Peter.
Yeah.
That's going to put a lot of discussion in the back third.
So again, advantage right now going to Nikki because she has the two waves, and Coco is going to have to find a solid wave, but she's got plenty of time. There's still 9:50 to go here. This is a good wave. If she gets to the inside, she was able to redirect and head back on the right, and this wave stays nice and clean through this inside section. You know, there's still some bumps and lumps, but then here, look at this, commits with all that backwash, but made it look easy, and it's going to be a good score for Coco Ho. And then behind, we saw Nikki Van Dijk. You know, her first score, a 4.67. So this wave, she basically has to set up. You know, she caught it on the outside. The scoring potential now starts to get good because it starts to steepen up with the wrapping cutback. And this final move here attacks the lip, really connected well with that vertical face from Nikki Van Dijk. That was by far, I think, the most dynamic turn we've seen from this heat. So we'll see where the judges put this in the scale in relation to those two scores that happened back to back.
Spoke about that earlier, Peter. Strategically deciding to not break away to a different part of the lineup. Both of the girls just using that same rip bowl, and we'll wait for numbers to check in, and it looks like the numbers are going to lean in favor of Nikki Van Dijk on that last exchange. Surfer in blue Van Dijk, a 7.93, plays against Coco Ho's 5.83. So that last maneuver, the emphasis leaning in favor of Van Dijk there, Peter.
Oh, well, the judges loved it. I mean, ultimately there was that commitment and degree of difficulty, and it was on that section that was tough. It was a big section, and she was able to attack it. And the scores reflected almost 2-point difference between Coco Ho's last score. Coco in the inside, she really kind of redirected off that section, whereas Nikki really laid into it, and really applied pressure on the back foot, and that's that commitment that the judges really look at. And a pretty good gap between these two waves, a 7.93 compared to the 5.83. She is in the lineup. She is definitely on the outside now. So just ultimately, if she can find herself in good position for a good solid wave.
And, well, without priority, Van Dijk a little further out. We'll just have a look at a reform opportunity here. She is rolling out her wave number 3 of this heat, and that one's going to work out at absolutely nothing. So risk and reward there. She took the risk, no reward. And you Americans always say no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? She didn't have priority there, so she decided to play that out. 6 minutes remaining. Now the focus will be on Coco Ho, looking for a reform right-hander here, and she's going to get straight to work. Here we go. Flat on angle from our cameras. This is exactly what the judges will be looking at, is this angle. Now Coco Ho, board speed. That concave starting to squirt through to the inside. Gets it up in the lip area. Now this wave is buckling as the tide runs out. She's going to keep moving through to the inside, so rail work, but we want to see major emphasis on maneuvers. Ow! And all of that distance traveled, give you an idea, that's about 150 yards of riding right there. Get to the inside for a no payout. That's going to be a tough one with 5.5 to go. Enough time, of course, for both of our surfers to relaunch and bring more scores to us. Somewhere
on the inside, doing everything she could. Only gets a 4.43, so it does not change her situation. She needed to get to 6.78. As we watch the recap here, this was the beginning of the heat, the 4.67 of Nikki Van Dijk. As she got through the inside, wasn't able to capitalize on that final closeout move, but she got the early start. I mean, it took a long time for the waves to get started. It was a good 7 or 8 minutes before we started to see the first scores here. And then we saw the 5.83 of Coco Ho. Nice move there on the inside. Got herself into that good range, but then right behind her, this was Nikki Van Dijk's best wave. The 7.93, which came on the emphasis of that move there, attacking the closeout, and now has the lead by 2.34 points.
Wow.
Coco Ho with 4.5 minutes to go. That last wave almost had an opportunity there, you think, to get that 6.78, but I think a little bit of a misread on that inside section. She weaved it too far back, and then once it got to that inside section, she was behind it.
So too much setup work and not enough emphasis. Meanwhile, heat leader Nikki Van Dijk back in motion for us here in what will now be the final heat of the day, and Van Dijk will spill out with a little over 4 minutes to go. Looking at the numbers already achieved by Nikki Van Dijk, you mentioned the 7.93, but she'll want to just find another number and really put the squeeze on Coco Ho.
Yeah, by Nikki Van Dijk at the end.
And that big snap was right on the inside, Peter. So having a look, maybe Coco Ho can find a reform. She does, because it's down to 10 seconds to go. She's got to find something, a junction on the inside. Gets a little snap, now redirects. Well, solid maneuver on the inside. Is it enough? I'm going to throw the question at you.
You put me out on the ledge, are you?
That's called throwing you under the bus, Peter.
Yeah, thanks, dude. I don't know.
I think we can both agree. You can see by her body language, we've both watched enough heats to know that is not going to go near the requirement. A 6.78 is what she needs to unlock. The judges are going to pepper in scores in and around the 3 mark. It's going to register at a 3.33, won't even feature in Coco Ho's top 2. And, well, the North Atlantic winning that one, but also Nikki Van Dijk. So your lady on screen there, she did get absolutely atomized by some big set waves just in the back few minutes of that heat. But Nikki Van Dijk does a good job and will go through to round 3. So the